Every great empire carries the hidden seeds of its own destruction, and the Golden Empire of Israel was no exception. For 40 years, the known world stood in absolute awe of King Solomon. His fleet sailed to the edges of the earth, his treasury overflowed with pure gold, and the magnificent temple on Mount Moriah was the undisputed architectural wonder of the ancient Near East. But monuments of that scale are always built on the backs of men. When King Solomon finally breathed his last and slept with his fathers, the glittering facade of his empire began to crack. For decades, the 12 tribes of Israel had groaned under the crushing, suffocating weight of Solomon's ambition. To fund his massive building projects, his sprawling palaces, and his massive standing army of chariots, Solomon had enforced crippling taxation. Worse, he had drafted tens of thousands of his own people into brutal, forced labor camps. The Golden Era had become a gilded cage, and the nation was entirely exhausted. The people did not need another architect. They did not need another conqueror. They desperately needed a shepherd. With the great king dead, the heavy, jeweled crown now passes to Solomon's son, Rehoboam. He is a prince who has only ever known the absolute luxury of the royal courts. He has never fought a war in the wilderness. He has never tended a flock, and he has never known the sting of a taskmaster's whip. As Rehoboam prepares to ascend the throne, the entire geopolitical landscape of the ancient world holds its breath. The unified kingdom of David stands on the absolute razor's edge of a violent civil war. To officially consolidate his power and be crowned king over all the tribes, Rehoboam travels north from the fortified safety of Jerusalem to the ancient, historically significant city of Shechem. But when he arrives, he finds that the people are not there to blindly bow and throw flowers at his chariot. They are there to negotiate the terms of his kingship. From the vast, dusty sea of exhausted laborers and tribal leaders emerges a single, highly dangerous figure. His name is Jeroboam. Years earlier, Jeroboam had been one of Solomon's most brilliant and capable supervisors of forced labor. Because of his immense talent and a dangerous prophecy that he would one day rule 10 tribes, Solomon had tried to have him assassinated. Jeroboam was forced to flee for his life into the hostile territory of Egypt, waiting in the shadows for the old king to die. Now, with Solomon gone, Jeroboam has returned. He stands before the young, untested heir as the fierce, unwavering voice of a desperate nation. Jeroboam and the entire assembly of Israel stand before the royal pavilion, looking up at Rehoboam, and make a simple, profound, and deeply reasonable plea. Your father made our yoke heavy. Now therefore, lighten the hard service of your father and his heavy yoke on us, and we will serve you. It is the most critical, defining moment in the history of the nation. The people are holding out an olive branch. They are not asking for a revolution. They are simply begging for relief. They are giving Rehoboam the golden opportunity to win their hearts forever. The new king looks out at the massive crowd, realizing the absolute gravity of the situation. He asks for 3 days to make his decision. In those 3 short days, the fate of the unified kingdom of David will be sealed forever. Rehoboam retreats to his private chambers and immediately calls for the elders, the gray-bearded, battle-scarred, and deeply seasoned counselors who had stood beside his father, Solomon. These are men who intimately understand the delicate, highly dangerous machinery of running a kingdom. They understand that a throne built purely on fear cannot stand indefinitely. Their advice to the young king is profound, simple, and entirely selfless. If you will be a servant to this people today and serve them, and speak good words to them when you answer them, then they will be your servants forever. It is the ultimate timeless paradox of true leadership. To rule effectively, you must first serve. But Rehoboam's heart is poisoned by an intoxicating, blinding arrogance. He looks at the elders' wisdom and sees only cowardice. He views compromise as a total surrender of his royal authority. In a fatal error of judgment, he completely dismisses the men who built the empire. Instead, he turns to his peers, the young men who had grown up alongside him in the sheltered luxury of the palace. These are wealthy, arrogant, silver spoon nobles who are hungry for total power and eager to flex their political muscles. They have no concept of the suffering of the common man. Their advice to Rehoboam is a masterclass in political suicide. They tell the king to double down, to show zero mercy, to crush the spirit of the people with sheer, unadulterated terror. Tell them this, the young nobles sneer, their voices dripping with contempt. Say to them, my little finger is thicker than my father's waist. And now, whereas my father laid on you a heavy yoke, I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions. It is the counsel of absolute tyranny, driven by a spoiled prince who fundamentally believes that the throne gives him the divine right to act as a dictator. He chooses the path of the scorpion. On the morning of the third day, the air in Shechem is suffocatingly thick with tension. Tens of thousands of Israelites, led by Jeroboam, stand silently before the royal pavilion, waiting for the king's final answer. Rehoboam steps forward into the harsh daylight. He looks down at the sea of exhausted, calloused faces. He does not offer the hand of a shepherd. He does not speak the good words of a servant. Instead, he hardens his face, raises his voice, and delivers the harsh, uncompromising, venomous words of the young nobles. He promises them heavier yokes. He promises them relentless labor. He promises them scorpions. The reaction of the crowd is instantaneous and utterly explosive. The political loyalty to the House of David, carefully and meticulously built with blood and faith over 40 years, shatters like cheap clay in a single, devastating moment. A fierce, terrifying, deafening roar rises from the 10 northern tribes. It is a battle cry of absolute, permanent rejection. What portion do we have in David? We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel. Look now to your own house, David. The rebellion is total. The nation fractures in real time. In a desperate, incredibly foolish, and panicked attempt to force the massive crowd into submission, Rehoboam makes one final mistake. He sends Adoram, his chief taskmaster of forced labor, into the crowd to quiet them down. It is the absolute worst possible man he could have chosen. The sight of their chief oppressor pushes the crowd into a violent frenzy. The furious mob surrounds Adoram, picks up heavy stones from the streets, and brutally stones him to death right in front of the king. The blood is spilled. The violence of the mob immediately turns its furious eyes toward the royal pavilion. Realizing that his arrogance has completely cost him control of the situation, and that his own life is now in immediate mortal danger, a terrified Rehoboam leaps into his royal chariot. He whips his horses into a frenzy, fleeing in absolute humiliation back to the fortified stone walls of Jerusalem. The unified empire of David is officially dead, with Rehoboam banished to the south. The 10 northern tribes officially crown Jeroboam as their new king. The nation is split, but Jeroboam's victory is immediately poisoned by a dark, consuming paranoia. He sits in his new capital and realizes a terrifying, undeniable geographical truth. The sacred temple of Almighty God, the absolute center of Israelite worship, is located in Jerusalem, deep inside enemy territory. If this people go up to offer sacrifices in the temple of the Lord in Jerusalem, Jeroboam reasons to himself in the dark, then their hearts will turn back to their Lord, Rehoboam king of Judah, and they will kill me. Driven by sheer political fear and a desperate desire for self-preservation, Jeroboam makes a calculated decision that will permanently doom his new kingdom to centuries of spiritual darkness and eventual destruction. He abandons the God who just handed him the throne. He seeks dark counsel, gathers his craftsmen, and orders the construction of 2 massive calves of solid gold. He places one idol in the far north at Dan and one in the south at Bethel, creating highly accessible, counterfeit worship centers. He gathers his people and declares the most blasphemous, tragic lie in all of biblical history. You have gone up to Jerusalem long enough. Behold your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. It is a terrifying, exact echo of the ancient, deadly sin committed at Mount Sinai. To solidify this new, counterfeit religion, Jeroboam completely disregards the Levite priesthood, appointing his own false priests from among the common people, and ordains his own fake festivals. He completely severs the entire northern kingdom from the true worship of Yahweh. Jeroboam actively trades the glory of the living God for the cold, silent, dead metal of golden calves, simply to protect his own political power. Back in Jerusalem, a humiliated, furious, and vengeful Rehoboam begins to amass a massive military force. He drafts 180,000 elite, chosen warriors from the remaining tribes of Judah and Benjamin. He is fully prepared to march north, crush the rebellion, and drown Jeroboam's new kingdom in blood. But before the heavy bronze swords can be drawn, the undeniable word of the Lord comes through a prophet named Shemaiah. The prophet stands before the king and the massive army, delivering a message from heaven that stops the war in its tracks. You shall not go up or fight against your relatives, the people of Israel. Every man return to his home, for this thing is from me. God himself had ordained the violent split of the kingdom as a brutal, necessary, and unavoidable judgment for the rampant idolatry introduced by Solomon. Grudgingly, Rehoboam stands his massive army down. The golden era is officially over. The physical and spiritual descendants of Abraham are now a house divided against itself. To the north lies the kingdom of Israel. 10 powerful tribes plunged immediately into the dark, chaotic worship of golden calves under a paranoid king. To the south lies the kingdom of Judah, the tiny, fragile remnant holding onto the city of Jerusalem, the temple of God, and the fractured promise of the royal line of David. The giant slayer's empire has been violently torn in two by the arrogance of a son and the fear of a servant. The stage is now perfectly, tragically set for centuries of bitter civil wars, wicked kings, desperate weeping prophets, and the long, slow, agonizing march toward total exile.